Thanks for tuning in to the Old Dirty Basement. On this week's episode, we're wrapping up part 3 of Charles Manson.
Man, if 2 parts weren't enough already, we went through the early years, the middle years, the soon-to-be later years. I wonder what could possibly happen next.
I think that's why we're like tuning in to find out.
Yeah.
If you know anything about Manson, you might know some stuff, but I'm sure you don't know it all.
Yeah, we hope you're enjoying our coverage. Speaking of which, if you are, leave that 5-star rating on Apple. You can leave a written review and sit back, relax, and enjoy our coverage of part 3, Charles Manson.
This is the Old Dirty Basement, home to debauchery, madness, murder, and mayhem. A terror-filled train ride deep into the depths of the devil's den.
With a little bit of humor,
History,
And copious consciousness.
I'm your announcer, Shallow Throat. Your hosts are Dave, Matt, and Zap. I love you, Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right, all right.
hey, this is Dave,
Matt,
And Zap.
and welcome to the Old Dirty Basement.
where every week we cover a true crime.
Murder,
Or compelling story.
So sit back.
relax.
And comprehend.
Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome back to the Old Dirty Basement on this lovely, almost spring. Is it almost spring?
Getting there.
Almost spring day here in Pennsylvania.
Couple more weeks.
Almost time for Rita's.
Oh, yeah. Ooh,
Easy,
Italian ice.
man. She's a saint.
That's
Rita's
right.
a
Yeah,
saint.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
That woman is a saint.
She is. It is some good Italian ice, though.
Yes, it is. Is
But
that is that regional or is that across the country?
I think Rita's is everywhere,
a
isn't it?
chain. I don't know.
Or is it like a Sheetz or a Wawa?
I don't know. We'll have to mail back that for us, please.
Yeah, if anybody's out there, that's a good mailbag start today. I like that.
Yeah. So what are we back with here today, fellas?
Back with old Chuck Manson. Charles Manson. Part 3.
Good old Chucky.
As if 2 parts weren't enough.
There's a lot to cover.
There is. This guy was dynamic. So what did we do here? Part 1, we covered his early life. Part 2, our most recent, we covered, what did he do? Got out of prison, moved to San Francisco, started the Manson family, all thanks to LSD and, his probation.
Yes.
Do we know how many members at this time were in the Manson family? He had like 20 followers at
I think there was at the time on the ranch, there was 32 adults, something like that, and like 7 children living there. That was
Okay.
at, near the end here.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
It is for sure a cult.
It's like a mini cult.
Yeah. You know one other fun fact I found out?
Oh, give it
and
to
this,
me.
This is probably the best one of all. Guess who shares a birthday with Charles Manson? One of our listeners.
JW.
Nope.
Not Officer Vince.
Officer Vince.
Get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah, I got the message from him.
Happy birthday. Happy very belated birthday, Officer Vince.
That's
yeah,
right.
Officer Vince is 30th probably
Okay.
Yeah.
out there in Pittsburgh.
So he started the Manson family, had his family, moved out to, ran into one of the Beach Boys, mooched off of him for a long time,
Hung out with Neil Young.
old Dennis Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
moved on to Spawn Ranch, got the craziness in his mind about Helter Skelter, wanted to start the race war ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
again, thanks to the Helter Skelter
The mantra, I guess.
discombobulation up in his head. Killed Gary Hinman, or did he kill him? He didn't kill him, but
Allegedly.
he led the family
Allegedly.
to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, with Beausoleil,
Bobby Beausoleil.
we ended with
He's the devil.
Bobby Beausoleil. That Vicky Valancourt was the devil.
Mm-hmm.
He was arrested after having fallen asleep in a car belonging to Hinman, and the police found a murder weapon in the wheel well of the car.
Fun fact on that car, it was a Fiat wagon. That was the car that belonged to Hinman that Beausoleil was driving. He was heading, I forget if it was the San Diego or somewhere, on like a longer trip.
San Diego.
And the Fiat's not a reliable car, I guess.
No.
And so it broke down, of course. So he was on the side of the road, and the police approached him. And when they ran the tags,
Fiat. Fix it again, Tony.
fix it again, Tony. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Kind of like Ford, and they have other ones like
Found on roadside daily.
yeah. So they pulled over, ran the tags, whatever, and there was an APB out, stolen vehicle, or that it was tied to that murder. They asked him about it. He said, "Oh, I bought it off a black guy." because they were trying to frame that murder,
Yeah.
the Gary Hinman murder, on this race war.
Correct.
To start this race war, I should say.
Yep.
Obviously they didn't buy this story, not to mention he had fingerprints at the scene. So there was all that. The other car involved in that Hinman murder was a VW bus. I found out. And that VW bus, Manson then turned over to, there was a motorcycle gang called the Straight Satans.
Nice.
And that's what spawned this whole murder.
Not the gay Satans, but the straight
Satans, yeah.
Okay.
This Hinman had sold a bad batch of mescaline.
Oh.
And they wanted their money back, which was $1,000.
Oh.
That's where it all came from.
Okay.
Just to give you a little backstory on that.
The old mescaline market back in the 60s.
Yeah, I guess it was a bad batch. $1,000. So he gave him the VW bus, which was well over the value
Sure.
Manson did. So
Isn't that what Hunter S. Thompson was on a lot?
Mescaline?
A lot of mescaline.
Was it mescaline or was it?
I think it was mescaline.
No.
Fear and Loathing I just watched like not too long ago.
I remember he did a lot of those
Speedballs.
He did ether.
Yeah, ether was one.
He was a big inhalant. He liked ether and he liked poppers. That
like whippets and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like that.
Okay.
He was high a lot.
He was high a lot.
Mm.
So were these people.
Indeed. It's fortunate, I guess, for Manson to have that VW bus so readily available, because his chance would have it. I think he got at some point into the theft of VWs, but maybe we'll get there.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get there.
I know. I think I know where you're going with that.
Yeah. Well, Gary Hinman was not enough to get that race war going. It's really time to move on here. We need bigger and better things. And now on to what is likely the most famous or infamous part of the Manson family's legacy, the Tate and LaBianca murders. So, Manson had been stalking the ground of Terry Melcher's residence for a number of months, randomly showing up uninvited or going completely unseen. The location included a main house and a guest house. Melcher and his girlfriend, Candace Bergen,
From
Murphy Brown.
There you go.
Oh, wow. I didn't remember that.
Downtown Brown. They were renting the main house at the time. And on the night of August 8th, 1969, 4 members of the Manson family, Tex Watson, Linda Kasabian, Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel, arrived at Melcher's residence with one objective: kill everyone. After cutting the telephone line to the house, the 4 made their way into the property. First discovered or encountered by Steve Parent, a friend of the property's caretaker, William Garrettson.
Yeah, that guy was just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Dude, right?
Yeah.
This guy's just hanging around outside.
Yep.
He's just hanging out in his car. Like he was either leaving or showing up. Like he was just there.
I think he was leaving.
This guy, Parent, was like 18 years old. He had called him about a clock radio of all things. He was trying to sell this clock radio. He's like, "Hey, do you interested in taking a look at it?" He takes it over to this guest house, plugs it in. He's showing him, "Look how good it works," and all that. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not interested, but whatever." He's like, "Here, have a beer before you leave," and had a beer, and then he was on his way. Well, when he's leaving down the driveway,
who does he see walking up the driveway?
Right.
Those 4 cats.
Right. So he was just an 18-year-old kid.
On his way out.
In a white Rambler, it was.
Well, in his white Rambler, this poor bastard Parent was shot 4 times in the chest and abdomen by Tex Watson.
Mm.
Watson, Atkins, and Krenwinkel entered the house while Kasabian kept watch at the gate. Once inside, 4 occupants were discovered and brought into the living room. They were Sharon Tate, who at the time was 8.5 months pregnant and was the wife of Roman Polanski. It was Jay Sebring, Tate's friend, and former boyfriend, by the way. Wojciech Frykowski, who was Polanski's friend, and Abigail Folger, Frykowski's girlfriend and, as chance would have it, heiress to the Folgers coffee family legacy.
That's big money.
Sebring and Tate were tied together at their necks. The other end of the rope was thrown over an exposed ceiling beam. Sebring was then shot and stabbed 7 times, dead at the hands of Tex Watson. Frykowski's hands had been tied with a towel, but he managed to free himself and attempted to escape. Susan Atkins stabbed him in the legs, but he managed to press on. Tex Watson pursued him onto the lawn, where he was shot twice, beaten over the head with the gun, and stabbed multiple times. In the end, Frykowski was stabbed a total of 51 times and hit over the head with the gun 13 times. In fact, this dude was beaten so hard that the barrel of the gun had bent and one of the side grips had broken off. Can you believe that?
It's pretty brutal.
That's pretty brutal. Folger escaped out a bedroom window, but was chased down by Krenwinkel and Watson. She was stabbed to death a total of 28 times. Tate was the last one, pleading for her life and the life of her unborn baby. She was stabbed 16 times. Tate's and Sebring's bodies were then hung. Tate was still alive at the time, though just barely. In a fashion similar to the Hinman murder, Atkins used Tate's blood to write "pig" on the front door of the house. P.S. Where was the groundskeeper? Bill Garrettson?
He was sleeping.
Yeah, wasn't he in the guest home?
That comes up later then in the investigation. How did this guy sleep through all that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he was sleeping. I think he was like hiding in his room. Would you really be wanting to like come out?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I guess there's no way to tell. He was the only one there.
Like,
But
think
I know
if,
what
if
you're
you're
saying,
if you're
yeah.
hearing like gunshots, people screaming, whatever, you're going to stay hidden wherever you're at.
Right.
Yeah, I got to assume this guy didn't have a gun. I could tell you, if I did not have a gun, I'm sure I'd be hiding it if the other guy has a gun.
But even if you heard gunshots, like your first instinct is survival, so you would probably hide.
Right. But back to the beginning of this, when we started talking about it, so like you had mentioned, it was before that the property of Terry Melcher and Candace Bergen.
Correct.
They had ended up moving away. Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate were renting it. Do you want to guess what the rent was back then?
So I can tell you that neither, what's his name, who moved away?
Terry Melcher.
Melcher.
He didn't own the house.
No, he did not. No.
He too was a renter.
He was renting it, but
I forget the dude's name. It's some Italian last name that he owned the whole property, and this Italian dude lived in the guest house, and he rented out the main house to varying people of varying levels of stardom, including
That's
but
good
not limited
business.
to the Polanski and Melcher before him. What was the rent on that?
$1,200 a month.
God damn!
And this is in 1969 or whatever. So just to give you an idea of the property values.
Well,
up there.
it's still like that in LA. Like people can't afford to pretty much buy a home there, so they rent. Like it's like a car thing. They like lease a home, and then when they're done with it for 2 years, they move somewhere else.
It's amazing. In LA, there's no such thing as a middle class.
No, everything's so expensive. Yeah.
You're either in or you're broke. There's no middle.
And the other thing was Charlie had, like you had said, he'd been there on numerous occasions dropping Terry Melcher off, but he actually went there one day and the owner, Sharon Tate was there. I forget, one of her friends was there. Might have been Sebring or somebody else, and confronted him like, "Can we help you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm looking for Terry Melcher." Well, he doesn't live here anymore. So Charlie, by that point, he should have been aware that like they don't live here anymore.
Right.
So, but I guess he figured there's some celebrities. Well, he knew Sharon Tate was there, but he knew Terry wasn't there. But he couldn't get a hold of Terry's address.
Right.
He would ask Dennis Wills. He asked the owner of that house who was in the guest house that time, and he was like, "I don't know where he moved."
Right.
Like nobody would tell him where Melcher was.
Yeah, and the owner actually had said, "Look, I don't know where he is, but I know he's going to be gone for like a year, dude. So
He's going to be gone. Yeah.
get the hell out of here."
Oh, and yeah, this is what I wanted to touch on was Roman Polanski at the time was pretty much like a Steven Spielberg. Like everybody knew who he was, and he just had a film that was related to the occult. Does anybody know what that film was?
Rosemary's Baby.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was very like occulted, and there was a lot of like backlash and stuff.
People are probably trying to connect that to the murders and all that.
So that happened after the murders. A lot of people were saying that Polanski maybe was not involved with it, but had something to do with
Something to do with it. Yeah, they were thinking he was maybe guilty. But this Garrison...
He was guilty of other stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But this Garrison was getting paid like $35 a week to stay there and watch the property when the owner was away. Yeah. But Sharon Tate would always have people over anyhow. So there was always people there. That's why on the night of this, there was all these people there.
Yeah.
She was like never alone. And
parties all the time.
Yeah,
like Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, right. Pretty much party all the time.
It's funny when you say Sharon, like I was reading that. I was like, oh, Sharon Tate. Like I thought he played for like the Falcons.
Yeah,
like,
right.
like from the University of Pittsburgh, Sharon Tate.
Yeah. But Polanski was always in England or Italy or here or there, like doing like filming movies and production and stuff like that. So she was alone a lot.
Most of the time.
And she always had friends over. But that one guy, like you said, they were, that Sebring, I guess they were romantically involved at one point.
Yep.
but he was like a hairstylist or whatever.
Yep.
And they were just friends now and all that, but it was weird that they targeted that house since Melcher wasn't there and Charlie didn't know that, but I guess maybe.
I think for Charles, it was more of a, I'm now so familiar with this place just because I've been scoping it out. Mm-hmm. And I also know that it's off the beaten path, which it is. It's up the side of a mountain. If you ever look at where this place is located, it's up the side of a mountain. It's at the end of a one, there's no through traffic.
Right.
So one lane one lane driveway up to the house.
It's just simple and straight. And at the end of it is this glorious house. And therein was these people. Again, a place with which he was familiar just because he was trying to scope out Terry Melcher. And did we ever conclude as to why he was trying to get to Terry Melcher?
Because he dissed his music.
Yeah,
he said,
sign him.
he's like, I think it's not going to work. And then he was pissed, and he's like, I'm supposed to be a recording artist, and my work's amazing.
He came out to the ranch to hear him perform, and he was like, I can't really do anything with you, but I have a guy that does like Indian tribal music that would maybe could do something with your style of music, and I'll introduce you. So he kind of didn't leave him totally hanging.
So it was kind of help him, or trying to help him out.
He felt bad for all the people there on this ranch because he was telling them how they're living out of dumpsters. This Terry Melcher felt bad for him, so he gave him what he had in his pocket, which was like $50, and he was like, "Here, take this money, feed these people or whatever, and I'll get back to you." But he never really shut him out. He just kind of said, like, "I like what you're doing. I just don't know what I would do with what you're doing here." Right. So he felt spited by Melcher, which would give him motive to go after Melcher.
Sure. And this is Melcher, who he'd met at Dennis Wilson's house.
Yeah, because Melcher is the music producer for the Byrds and all. He's in the music industry, and all those guys network together. And Dennis Wilson is the one that kind of brought this in the
limelight there.
Yeah, that, hey, like, check this guy Charlie out and blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, also back to that, when they wrote pig on the door, she used a towel to get Tate's blood, the white pig on the door.
Right. It's not like she like cut her head off or her hand off.
Well, not even that, but just to avoid like fingerprints. They were very, very conscious of like, let's not leave any evidence here.
Sure.
Because that first murder they messed up.
Oh yeah.
And they had fingerprints all over the place. So.
It's still. I mean, this one just as a whole is messed up. I mean, look, 4 people, call it 4.5, because I mean, you got an 8.5-month baby in the belly of Sharon Tate.
Sharon.
Do you know what Tex said to them when the line that he used?
I do. It was, "I'm the devil and I'm here to do the devil's work."
Yeah, as he kicked the first guy in the head, and he was. I mean, it was like I heard like it was basically like a verbatim. I don't know if it was Kasabian or one of the Manson girls that they're the only ones that are there that are alive. Maybe Watson, I don't know. It could have been, but basically giving a play-by-play of what was said, and it was horrible. Yeah. I mean, it was really like a violent.
She was the one that ratted everything out, wasn't she?
Well, they all, once they got into, testimonies and stuff, started giving stuff up, but definitely was like pretty graphic, everything that went on in there.
Shit, yeah.
And to be clear, Charles Manson was not here at all.
Correct. Not at all. Charles Manson was not here. Was not at the scene, not even close.
Nope. Well, he was there later, though.
Yeah, but,
Later that night, he was.
Was he? Oh, yes, he was. He went to inspect what went down.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not committing anything.
Well.
No, but you're aware of a crime, I guess.
And I think they were all pretty high also, to be like stabbing people 51
times. We was getting high.
Yeah.
You know how we do.
They were on some shit.
So, yeah, in fact, that night he came back. He went there, inspected it, and he was none too satisfied.
No, he made it even a little bit more witchy,
gruesome.
As he said.
Witchy.
Yeah. But they also got $70 out of that.
Nice.
That's all the money they got out of that. Because he had, Tex said,
that's 2 weeks worth of Groundkeeper Willie's pocket money.
It is.
But Groundkeeper was still alive.
He was. But he said to Sharon and Folgers there, he's like, "Where's the money? I know you got money here." And this is all they had was $70. But we can get more. They were trying to stall. Like, give us time. We'll give you more. We'll get you more. It didn't work.
It did not work. All occupants killed. Fun fact, Steve McQueen was supposed to be at that party. He didn't make it.
I think if Steve McQueen was there, it would be a different story.
Yeah, there was that's funny you brought that up because I had a list of now these are all people later on that they were supposed to be there. Quincy Jones, Steve McQueen, like you said, Lou Gossett Jr., Patty Duke, who supposedly said she had strep throat, Rick James, because he was hungover, and Sammy Davis Jr. Now the McQueen excuse was a girl, I guess, called him.
Makes sense.
Like a late night booty call. Maybe,
that makes sense because Steve McQueen is the man's man.
Yeah.
He's a man's man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been a different story if McQueen was there. Now, Rick James, he could even turn it around. Because them girls were all high. He was like, come here, bitches.
So there's...
when you would have got...
when I heard mention of Quincy Jones, that would have thrown the whole thing off. Quincy Jones, Rick James, and Sammy Davis Jr. So this was made to look like, again, they're starting a race war, right?
Race war, yes.
So they're making it look like a black guy or black people stabbed all of these wealthy white people or killed all these wealthy white people.
Right.
That wouldn't work if the dead people include black people.
Yeah, laying there, fuck your couch.
Fuck your couch is right. So it was, I should say it's very serendipitous for not only the people who remain alive because they weren't there, but it's serendipitous for Charles and his family's sake for purposes of their narrative that there, in fact, were no black people there.
Yeah.
It would have just thrown off their whole purpose.
Exactly, yeah.
Not for anything here, or not for not, but I don't think Rick James would be coming to this party. There's like 4 people there, like hanging out.
I don't know. This is all like, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
He just comes to fuck the couch.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm saying Rick wouldn't have been at that party.
No, it's not happening.
That's not one of his Jones.
Mm-mm. Well, displeased with the outcome of the previous night's murders, Manson himself accompanied the 4 perpetrators, along with 2 additional members of the family, Leslie Van Houten and Clem Grogan, to the house of Lino and Rosemary LaBianca the very next night.
Is Leslie related to Milhouse?
So obviously the name Van Houten for Milhouse Van Houten had to come from these murders. From these bad people. Had to. I mean...
That's the only other name I know of Van Houten.
Is that from Simpsons?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. This neighborhood, too, that they targeted this next night wasn't as wealthy.
Right.
It was kind of a surprise that they went there. But
surprise.
Like middle of the road type.
Yeah, because they were...
LA.
Because the first one, they were targeting, like, A-list, where stars live, like real high-end real estate. Like Zap said, LA is expensive wherever you're at.
Yep.
But this is more along the lines of I guess for LA, maybe a middle class.
Yeah, this would be a house in the valley, not up on the hills.
Right.
Well, that very next day, August 9th, 1969, Manson and Watson entered through the unlocked back door of the LaBianca house. Lino, who was sleeping on the couch in the living room, was awakened by Manson and Watson, who tied his hands. Watson then got Rosemary out of bed and brought her into the living room. Pillowcases were placed over Lino and Rosemary's heads and were tied with lamp cords, with the lamps still attached at the end of those electrical cords.
It happens.
It happens. Krenwinkel and Van Houten were sent to the house by Manson, who left the scene with the remaining 3 family members. Krenwinkel and Van Houten then took Rosemary to the bedroom while Lino was left with Watson in the living room. Watson began his attack on Lino by stabbing him, but was disrupted by a scuffle coming from the bedroom. In that bedroom, Rosemary was trying to keep Krenwinkel and Van Houten away from her by blindly swinging the lamp that was at the end of the electrical cord tied around her neck. Watson put a quick end to Rosemary's efforts, stabbing her close to 12 times. Watson then returned to the living room, continued to stab and ultimately kill Lino, and carved the word war on his abdomen.
Good God, y'all.
Nice, Dave, out of nowhere. Meanwhile, back in the bedroom, Krenwinkel and Van Houten were taking turns at stabbing. Rosemary had already died from Texas stabs. Krenwinkel and Van Houten were stabbing a lifeless body. By now, it was a total of 41 stabs. Van Houten would later claim 16 of those were hers. Using Rosemary's blood, Krenwinkel wrote Helter Skelter on the refrigerator door and Rise and Death to Pigs on the walls. While he lay dead, Krenwinkel stabbed Lino in the throat with a steak knife, leaving the steak knife embedded in his throat, and went on to stab him 14 more times with a carving fork, leaving the fork sticking out of his stomach. Watson, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten were left to hitchhike home to Spawn Ranch. Manson, in the meantime, had driven the remaining 3 chicks to the home of Saladin Nadir, dropping them off with instructions to murder him.
Was that the actor?
Yes.
Okay.
The plan fell through, however, as Linda Kasabian had knocked on the wrong door, awakening a neighbor. Like Watson, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten, Kasabian, Atkins, and Clem were left to hitchhike home to Spahn Ranch.
Yeah, I know that actor, like one of them hadn't known the guy and hooked up with him, so that's why they targeted him.
Like
I remember
in a sexy way?
Yeah, I think one of the girls there was like, yeah, I'd slept with him or whatever, had relations with him, so they kind of knew where he was at, if he was like in that apartment complex, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I know that they had when they left the crime scene, they had taken the wallet or the purse, and their idea was to drop it into a black neighborhood so that it would end up in the hands of,
Sure.
somebody would go use the credit cards, and they would be like, oh, they're trying to frame that race war again.
Of course.
So they decided against it and instead went to like a gas station in a black neighborhood and put it in, they went into the girl's bathroom and put it in the tank of the...
the back of,
the back of the tank.
toilet
to hide
tank,
it.
yes.
Yeah. So that'll come back to get them later on. I think. Yeah.
It's interesting.
What's that called when you like shit in the back end of a toilet tank?
It's called an upper decker.
Upper decker.
An upper decker. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Best used with diarrheas.
Oh.
Nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach.
Upper decker.
Diarrhea. Upper decker.
Yes.
So where are we at now? The body count, by the way, is now at a total of 8. That's Gary Hinman, Steve Parent, Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, Lino LaBianca, and Rosemary LaBianca. Yeah, that's real messed up. All right, let's move on. Just remember, gentlemen, the word of the day is bishop.
Bishop.
Juice.
Yeah, word of the day is bishop. Well, the L.A. sheriff was working on the Hinman case. LAPD began working on the Tate case. Glaring similarities were noted. William Garrettson, again, that was the groundskeeper at the Polanski house, was questioned and released. As we discussed, he apparently slept through the whole thing.
Do you know, though, they did arrest him initially?
Of course.
Yeah, because they were like, he's
the one living dude there at the scene.
They were like, there's no way that you could have slept through this or not. Like, you're 100 yards away, and there's like all this mayhem going on.
Mayhem. Nothing but mayhem.
LA's finest.
Yeah, right.
By August 12th, the LAPD was working the LaBianca murders. Initially, police had concluded there was no connection between the Tate and LaBianca murders. Coincidentally, the Spahn Ranch was raided on August 16th. Apparently, Manson and his family were suspected of a ring of car thefts. They were released not but a few days later, thanks to a mistyped search warrant.
So they weren't even connecting any of that.
Not at all.
They were probably shitting their pants when they showed up.
It was correct. The cops showed up, and these guys are all thinking, holy shit, they're taking us to jail for murder. No, but we are going to investigate what we think is a ring of car thieves. This was, we talked about, I alluded to this earlier, foreshadowed as it were.
Yes.
They were taking bugs, VW bugs, and converting them into dune buggies.
Dune buggies, yeah, that was their thing for the apocalypse.
The apocalypse.
That sounds fun, though.
The apocalypse. Yeah. That was so they could make their way into the city underground that only Charlie knew the location of.
Yeah, these idiots, they were taking us when they were putting together. There's a saloon on that Spahn Ranch.
Yep.
That was like, part of the movie sets. And they started building this thing in this saloon, not thinking, how the hell are we going to get it out of here?
What, the buggy?
Yeah, this buggy. Or this like dune buggy. So they had it all put together and couldn't.
You can't just drive it out the front door.
It's like, oops. But they would make these dune buggies. Like he was going to use them for this like end of the world when they're out in the desert and all that shit, which we'll get to. But
they came up with that shit before like Mad Max.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's cool.
Remember that
Mad Manson.
The whole idea was there's going to be a big race war and everybody's going to kill themselves and there's just going to be this vast wasteland with nothing else left and we're going to have to run it.
Right.
Okay. Well, the car theft racket wouldn't go away. Manson and his family were arrested yet again within the following weeks for car theft. This time, however, this was at neighboring ranches, and this was the Myers and Barker ranches. The dominoes began to fall when Susan Atkins just couldn't keep her mouth shut. Susan mentioned her involvement in the Hinman case to a roommate of hers, who went on to tell the police. Upon being booked, Atkins admitted it to the L.A. sheriffs, and then, while in jail, she again regaled her two cellmates of her involvement in the Tate and LaBianca murders. Shocker, these two cellmates told the police. Again, the word of the day is bishop. Somebody needs to shut that bishop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Nice.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So yeah, this woman just would not shut up. It was just telling the whole story over and over and over.
That's why I say, like, if you're going to do a murder or a crime, there should never be more than 2 people.
Yeah, because people talk.
And you have to eliminate the one who you did it with.
Well, a secret's no longer a secret once there's a second person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
September 1st, the gun used on Parent, Sebring, and Frykowski was discovered near the scene by a 10-year-old neighbor kid. LAPD received it, and they filed it in an evidence locker. Months later, on December 13th, the LA Times published Atkins' gruesome story. It took the neighbor's kid's father to call the LAPD and insist they go find the gun that they had locked away in the evidence and connect the 2 murders. Fun fact, a connection between the Beatles' White Album and the bloody messages at the 3 crime scenes had been discovered by the LAPD by the end of August. But to them, it was just a coincidence.
You wouldn't think like that Helter Skelter. As soon as you see that, you'd be like, "Oh, it's from the album."
Somebody's well. When the hell else am I hearing the term Helter Skelter?
Right. They may not have listened to music because you know back then there was like always them old cops, like they had like the pudgy bellies, used to eat a lot of donuts, drink coffee.
You're right. They weren't hip. Like listening to that. You mean?
It was like, nah, look here, Shane.
Yeah, Shane.
Yeah, you're guilty, Shane.
Like the 40s or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm surprised with that Helter Skelter. It's not like a normal. That's why I asked you if that meant anything before it was a song by the Beatles. If those words meant anything, that
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I
love the English language, but I don't know where Helter Skelter might have come from prior to the Beatles
using it in that song.
Yeah, I think it just rhymed nicely, like Helter Skelter.
True. And it means something totally different now. You know, I also think that there's a at least in my mind, I always thought that was written at the Sharon Tate murder scene, the Helter Skelter, just in my head.
You didn't know it was related to a Beatles?
Well, no, I knew that part of it. I just always in my mind pictured that being written in blood at the Cielo Drive address but it was the next night at the second murder. It's just one of those things where in my mind I connected it like that.
I mean, it's all starting to fall already. So you've already got Atkins in jail, and she's just singing like a canary. Like she's taking pride in this, right? Mm-hmm. So after all of this goes down, and after they hear her whole story, and hell, even the news people hear the story and publish it in the goddamn newspaper, then the arrests start to happen. First on the list was Charles Manson. As chance would have it, he was already in custody in L.A. for those car thefts. Susan Atkins, that's right, she's already in custody. She's the one singing. Tex Watkins, as chance would have it, he's already in custody in Texas for those car thefts. Look, one more time, everybody. If you're going to commit a crime, just do one at a time.
One at a time. He actually did flee the scene to Texas, and they had a hard time getting him back for extradition. I guess would you call it
Tex Watson?
Yeah, would you call that extradition even in the like if it's state to state? But Texas was like really giving him a hard time with bringing him to L.A. Like there was so much paperwork and bullshit they had to go through. But he figured as soon as the murders were done and he was out of there, like back then in the 60s, you can kind of disappear.
God,
you know what I mean, to a different state.
When you've got nothing to lose and nothing to your name, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Wait, what was Tex Watson's real first name?
Charles? No, was it Charles?
I don't know.
Was it Nipple? No. What was his first name?
Unless his parents are like, you're from Texas, your name's Tex. No, I knew he had a first name. I couldn't think of it.
Just a nickname.
All right.
I'm pretty sure his first name was Charles.
Awesome. Yeah. Two Charles. Right. Well, two Charles don't make a right.
That's right.
And it did. Okay, so we got Charles, Susan, Tex, Patricia Krenwinkel. She was already in custody in Alabama for the car thefts. Okay. Leslie Van Houten was arrested in L.A., and Linda Kasabian actually gave herself up in New Hampshire on December 2nd after an arrest warrant was issued on December 1st. Let's see what else they got. So they got six people in custody. Insofar as evidence, they've got the gun that was found by the 10-year-old that, again, his dad had to
call the cops
and like beg and plead. Like the whole exchange that he had back and forth with the cops was like, and I could see it from both sides. Like the cops are hearing this guy at the other end of the line saying, dude, do your jobs, police.
Right.
Like, yeah. Nobody is going to respond kindly to that. And in the meantime, the police are just getting angered more and more by this guy telling them how to do their jobs. So they're just like, fuck off. It actually dissuades them from wanting to do anything with that gun. Anyway, they had the gun. They had a bloody knife claimed by Susan Atkins to be hers, which was located on a chair it was found on a chair at the Tate House.
Yeah, she forgot it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the car ride home, she was like, I left a knife there.
Oh, oops, that's mine.
Yeah.
That's my knife, officer, that you have in evidence. Okay. They had found Watson's and Kasabian's bloody fingerprints, which were lifted from the Tate House. Watson's fingerprints were on the gun. They had also, in exchange for full immunity, a full detailed testimony from Linda Kasabian herself, and they had Paul Watkins' testimony. So Paul Watkins was not to be confused with Tex Watson, but Paul Watkins was just another Manson family member. So they got two. They got one of the girls singing. They got Atkins just running her mouth. They got Kasabian corroborating her entire story in exchange for immunity. And then you got Paul Watkins, just another member of the family.
Yeah, that Kasabian, that night when they went, they were not aware that any of that was going to go on. They did a thing called creepy crawling. Did you come across any of them talking about that?
I saw it, but I didn't dig too deeply into it.
So basically, before the murdering started, they would go out to wealthy homes, go in, move furniture around, do weird shit just to fuck with people. Like, oh, when they wake up, they'll be like freaked out. Like, who was in our house? Sometimes they would steal shit because they're trying to get money, but a lot of it was just to like make people on edge. So
did you refer to that earlier, like with the people now these days, like the influencers or whatever, stay in people's houses? What's that called?
Well, that's frogging.
Frogging.
But this would actually be something they would just do overnight, in the middle of the night, go into a house, move furniture around, and then leave. And then the people would wake up the next day like, what the hell?
That's
hilarious. See, today's world, you can't do that. You'd be shot.
No, you'd be shot. So they call that creepy crawling, and they thought this night that's what they were going to do. They had no idea.
Instead, they were going to murder people.
Murder. So when they got to the house and, shot the kid in the driveway, this Kasabian freaked out. She was like, oh,
correct.
She had no idea. So she was on
at the
lookout.
time. Yeah, she was just lookout down at the gate.
And she was like, make it stop. She wanted nothing really to do with it once it started, but she was stuck,
Yeah. Look,
But,
when you're there with a group of murderers, it's tough. What are you going to do? Run away? Because they're just going to kill you.
They also said that the acoustics of that area was when you would shoot a gun, you couldn't tell where it was coming from. People heard the gunshot, but couldn't place where it was. Yeah. They actually called there was a security detail that was in that neighborhood. Their job was just to sit around and keep an eye on shit. Mm-hmm. They heard the gunshot, called the police. Hey, there's gunshots out here. This is according to that audiobook I was listening to. It was like, well, I hope nobody died. We'll check it out. They never sent anybody out to check.
Damn.
So,
like you said, in the Hollywood Hills, I guess, like just you couldn't tell where the echo was coming.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. The echo was it would bounce around
all over the little
and shit like that doesn't happen up there.
No, I mean it's not you would think you're out in the Hollywood Hills and
somebody's hunting coyote.
It's a classy joint up there.
The other thing is that they were very disappointed to find out when it hit the news over the next few days. There was no talk of race war. Right. There was no talk of Black Panthers.
Right.
There was no talk of any of that. So it was kind of like they expected it to go one way.
It didn't go anywhere.
It didn't go that way, yeah, exactly.
It was just, hey, here's some dead famous people. Because they're more focused on the dead famous people than they are on the whatevers.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, no, I just said the evidence is just too stacked against them now.
Another interesting fact I heard was, security dogs at the time were going for like $200. After the second murder, the first murder, people were kind of like, it's a celebrity, who cares? It's a star, whatever. The Biancas were more like normal people.
Sure.
All of a sudden, they said like security dogs, like your German Shepherds, dogs like that, were selling for like $1,500.
Dang.
Gun sales went up, all that stuff. So this had a profound effect on people.
Profound.
Yeah.
Well, the trial was for the Tate and LaBianca murders. At this point, it did not involve the Hinman murder. Manson initially served as his own attorney, but of course that was ended prior to testimony beginning.
Why do all crazy cats always want to like defend themselves?
Right.
They got like no prior training. They got nothing. They're like, oh man, I got this.
Yeah, the judge squashed it. Like, dude, you're a menace to yourself. Stop. Just stop.
Look, man, I got no. Just listen. Hear me out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bundy did that.
Yeah, he was kind of smart though.
Right.
I mean, not to say that Manson was. I mean, I don't know what his. Yeah, he was above
his IQ
average.
was in the 120.
Yeah.
He was no attorney. So, on the first day of testimony, Manson arrived with an X on his forehead, claiming he'd X'd himself from society. Within days, Atkins, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten did the same. Of course, it was a circus. The outside was nuts. The outside of the courthouse was crazy. Members of the Manson family actually held vigils outside during the trial. Like they're just camping out on the sidewalk. Also along the lines with that Manson family, there was witness intimidation. Strangely, Paul Watkins' van caught on fire while he was in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Again, Paul Watkins, one of the guys testifying against the family.
Because Manson still has power, even behind bars.
Somehow, some way. That's hypnosis goes a long way. This is like a straight out of just a comedy scene. The judge was assaulted in court. Mm-hmm. Manson attempted to attack the judge during the trial. And it was actually after that the judge began carrying a revolver every day to court.
Now that's no joke. I mean, I've seen some things on like court TV or whatever where some guy's getting convicted and he jumps over the and like attacks these judges.
I just saw something like that a few months ago. Some woman judge denied this guy's parole or denied
that's
probation.
what I saw.
And then he just said fuck it, and he jumped over the thing after.
Yeah, but he was beating the crap out of her. Then some guy was there trying to help. He beat the crap out of him.
They got the judge.
Yeah, he got to her.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, he jumped over the bench.
Yeah, like a leap and then like bow, and then the what are those called, a bailiff or whatever? Yeah. He was just standing there watching it, like, man, I get in this.
Bailiff was like 110 years old.
Rusty.
Yeah.
But he was just like, look, man, I want to get involved in this.
He was just there for show.
Yeah.
But that's scary. I won't want to be a judge just because of that.
No. Well, I always talk about like just being a judge and you're putting away like mob dudes or something.
Or even somebody's like, family member where they're just like, they can find out where you live pretty easy.
There's some revenge concerns there.
Mm-hmm.
So the trial began on June 15th. And as Matt had mentioned, with this amount of evidence and everything going against him and Manson just being a crazy bastard, this thing was done within months. It was done by November 16th, not but, 5 months later. Interestingly enough, the defense, which is these 6 people on trial, except Kasabian, she, sung for immunity. The defense rested without calling a single witness. Of course, true to their guru, near the end, the 3 women were willing to take all of the blame, and actually they were claiming Manson's innocence. No, Charlie had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, they're still protecting him. It's crazy.
Well, when that didn't work, the 3 women blamed all of the planning, all of the execution, everything on Linda Kasabian. That's right. That's the prosecution's star witness. Not surprisingly, that didn't work either. On January 25th, 1971, all 4 defendants were found guilty on all charges, 27 counts each. On March 29th, 1971, all 4 defendants were sentenced to death. Fun fact, between the verdict and penalty phases, Manson shaved his head. The 3 chicks then shaved their heads.
Yeah, you see some of the trial footage and stuff. Like they were skipping along, like into that. Like just
when you skip, I thought you were going to go in for something deeper than that.
No. Like they were just like taking it so lightly. Like you're dealing with murder.
This is the rest of your life. You're going to jail,
and it just goes to show like how far out these.
They were brainwashed. They were high a lot.
Yeah,
who's getting high?
Like I don't know, the whole Manson thing. I think when the whole thing was done, like they said in his family, there may be 70 to 100 maybe members.
I don't, like I said, I know that the number that I saw when they were actually on Spawn Ranch was 32 maybe, and then 7 children. Because for instance, that Kasabian was married, living in a trailer nearby. She had to happen to meet, I forget, one of the girls, Gypsy was her name. Brought her to the ranch.
Gypsy Rose.
Yeah, Gypsy Rose. Introduced her to, everybody. Tex ended up hooking up with her that night. And she had brought her kid with her. And they were like, oh, we'll take care of your kid. And they put the kid over here. And they're like, what do you have to offer? And she's like, oh, he has money in his trailer. They go back and steal $5,000. So if you can give them anything, they'll take you in. Like if you have money, if you have connections, you're valuable to them.
Yep.
Plus she had her driver's license, which a lot of them didn't have, which is weird to think, but that was important because a lot of them didn't have valid driver's license. So it was all about what you could offer to them. And if you could offer something, money or, a skill or whatever, you were valuable to them. So they would build
Manson has them both.
Yeah,
and you know it.
But she said about her interaction with him when she first met him, he was in working on a dune buggy and she walked into the room and Charlie got up and got down, was kissing her feet and doing all this weird shit. But it's probably all
That's all like mind wash.
It's probably
the
something that like in her mind,
she's probably like, no man has ever like wanted me this much or worshipped me like this or touched my feet. And she was like, oh, this guy's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did it say Manson was an exquisite lover? That's how he had these women like eating out of the palm of his hand.
Exquisite lover.
Well, he took his time.
Well, that's back to something I referenced on one of the other episodes when we were talking about his sexuality and whether he was bisexual.
He was just looking for a warm, wet hole.
So there was a guy, I forget the name, but it was somebody that was in the Manson family or part of all this. And he brought up a time where a new girl came and they had like an orgy and people were hanging out and doing stuff. And Charlie asked the girl to perform oral sex on me. She was like,
you?
On me, yeah. No,
okay.
I wasn't there yet. I wasn't born yet.
All right.
But Charlie said to her, give me head, basically. To put it bluntly, that's kind of how he put it. And the girl went down and started performing oral sex. And he was like, not like that. And he called the guy over, show her how to do this.
Dang.
So
Charlie.
The guy was like, what do I do? He was like, but I was so like deep into this, I figured I got to do it because I got to like, so I went over and he said I showed her how to do it. And in his mind, like Charlie was, the second coming of Jesus and all that. Like in his mind, this guy was legit. So he would do things like that, play mind games on people.
Did we talk about that? Where you made him? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, no, but I was saying like with that, something like that, was he bisexual or was he just using power like the?
It's that. It was the latter.
Yeah.
Got off on his power.
To him, it didn't matter. He didn't care.
Right.
This guy grew up in prison for Christ's sake.
Yeah, they said 17 of his first 33 years of life were in prison.
Yep.
Or some kind of, student, or not student home. What do they call that with the kids?
Boys Town.
Boys Town or whatever. Yeah. But what do they call that? Reform school.
Yeah.
So you're saying not to say that he got lonely in prison or anything.
Yeah,
I'm sure he got lonely. Yeah. I'm sure he did.
No, but didn't they did we talk about where he got everybody high and like he had the whole crucifixion that he did?
What?
I don't know about that.
This is
you guys see that?
Me.
No.
Okay. He did a whole thing. One of the documentaries I saw, he got everybody high and he's like, we're going to redo the crucifixion of Christ. So he came out dressed up. He had like the crown of thorns and all that other stuff. They had like the guys putting him up on the cross. He like did this whole thing where he got everybody high and he was like, I am Jesus' son and all this other shit. So he had him so into, like you said, the second coming and all this other stuff.
He was big on mixing the Beatles and the Bible. And all those things together were in his message. Like it was Beatles lyrics and Bible, a lot of stuff out of Revelation and all that he used to kind of push his message. And that's how he tried to connect everything.
It's crazy.
But yeah, he was, man.
Oh, so I guess Manson, he will claim up and down, and all of his people will claim up and down that he never murdered any of the people. He never did anything. But what was the name of the district attorney at the time? He's the one that went on to write the book Helter Skelter, and he had.
Is it like Giuliani or something? Like, not Giuliani, but it's not like an Italian last name.
It's Bugliosi.
Right? Bugliosi.
There you go.
Not to be confused with Mr. Buglio.
Right.
It was actually Bugliosi was his name. I guess he just was able to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and he linked basically the fact that like this guy had control of these people so much that he is just as culpable as they are.
Right.
The fact he might not have done it, but he commanded it. It's essentially like since mafia is in the conversation, it's essentially like the Godfather can get busted, like the Don can get busted just because he's the one that commanded it. Like, he had somebody else push a button on a guy, but it was by virtue of his command that this guy had to do his job to get it to kill that guy. So he's just as guilty.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm no scientist.
It's like a weapon and you're pulling the trigger.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. On December 13th, 1971, Manson was convicted for the additional murder of Gary Hinman and the murder of Donald Shea.
Yeah.
No relation to Ice Cube.
No. And I can't wait to give Matt his nickname.
So on Donald Shea, on August 26th, 1969, Shea went for a car ride with Bruce Davis, Tex Watson, and Steve Grogan.
He was a quarterback for Seattle Seahawks.
That's right.
Yeah, Steve Grogan.
That's exactly
and the
right.
Patriots.
The Patriots for a year or two.
Yeah.
Davis and Grogan sat in the back seat of the car. Tex drove. Shea sat in the front passenger seat. The three had all been directed to murder Shea by none other, Charles Manson.
Yep.
Grogan bludgeoned Shea in the head with a pipe wrench. Watson stabbed him. In 1972, the death penalty was declared unconstitutional in California. Manson was then resentenced to life in prison. He went on to spend the remainder of his life in prison, dying on November 19th, 2017, at 83 years old.
So that Donald Shay's nickname was Shorty Shay. And I thought that'd be like I thought Matt would think for me it'd be a good rap
Shay.
name.
That's what I heard, like Shay. Yeah, Shorty Shay.
Because that was Matt's nickname for me back in the day, the Shay. So,
okay.
So I was thinking that they called that guy Shorty Shay.
Shay or Shadow.
Shadow was also
a big
one that got thrown
I don't
around.
remember Shay. I remember Shade. I don't remember Shay.
Well, at the one practice, Coach Lawrence made a comment about we're going to give the ball to the Shay a little bit. This is on JV football. He's like, we're going to run the Shay a little bit. So Matt would use that in the
Shay.
The Shay, yeah.
The Shay.
So the nickname of this guy was Shorty Shay.
Yeah,
and
that's a great name.
Manson told people that he had hacked this guy up and actually dismembered the body.
Interesting.
There was people saying that he was spreading that around. I cut him into 9 pieces and spread it all over Spawn Ranch.
So the body was never found?
They did find the body then, and I couldn't find out if it was a complete skeleton or pieces or if any of that was ever...
I got to believe this was Charles Manson trying to make himself look and sound more menacing than he really was.
More than he was, yeah.
Let's not forget, old Charlie Manson was a short little dude.
Yeah,
he was crazy as fuck, but he was just a short little dude.
But back to that, like how his size and stature, like he would get challenged. They said like when he was on Spawn Ranch, some of those ranch hands that were there before they moved would challenge him. One of the guys was like double his size and he was getting pissed. Like he was trying to get control of these people as well.
Right.
And he went and rushed on him, like up on him. And Charlie like just stood there and took out a match and held it under his own wrist. And you could smell, they said the people that were there that are recounting this story said you could smell the burning flesh. And he was like, pain is nothing to me or whatever, something. And this guy was like so freaked out. Like, what's wrong with this guy?
G. Gordon Liddy can do that.
It's that mind control shit.
And it kind of reversed it on the guy, and the guy was freaked out and was like, well, whatever, and kind of let him be. But he would do shit like that. There was one time where he was out preaching to people about like how there's no such thing as stealing and thievery, and because you don't own anything, nobody owns anything. And then the one guy goes, well, give me keys to your bus then. He's like, here you go. He gave the guy the keys to that. Remember they had that big Partridge Family bus?
Yep.
He drove off with this bus. This guy left, and they're like, Charlie, what are you doing? The guy came back about an hour later and gave him the keys back. He's like, and they would see shit like that and think, this guy must be like mystical or something. Like, how did he know that? You know what I mean?
He just didn't give a shit. He's like, I don't care.
Correct.
But when all this shit was not going his way, like the music part, and then the race war never happened and all that, all these failures, you would think with these people, they would have like...
Correct. They would have seen the writing on the wall. Like, this is not the second coming. This guy's just an asshole.
Right.
Nope. They stuck around.
But it was the whole record thing, the whole him thinking he was going to be like the next Beatles or like, that's the whole thing that got him so messed up.
Mm-hmm. I was amazed how many like superstars his music got in front of. Now, we talked about Neil Young and we talked obviously about Dennis Wilson, the Beach Boys, but Mama Cass, Frank Zappa.
Yep.
There were some names that I was like, wow. But I guess when you're in LA, it's a stone's throw and you're going to hit a celebrity.
I could see Zappa hearing about this guy being like, I'd like to see what this guy's like or something like that.
Well, a lot of them, other than Neil Young, was the only one that I heard said like, oh, this guy's got talent, but a lot of them passed on it. They played like demos for him and stuff like that. But yeah, he had people just fooled, man. It's crazy.
It is crazy. This guy was just a jack off. But I gotta say the people that were part of this, they might be just as bad, if not worse. Like, I'm actually glad that you're gone or done, because you people are stupid sheep. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why would you listen to this guy?
But it happens over and over and over again. Like, think about since Manson, how many times we've seen this.
Dave Koresh. I mean, you name it. The guy with
the guy with the Kool-Aid.
I was going to say the guy with the Kool-Aid.
Used to this day. Like, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Jones.
Yes.
Jonestown or
Mike Jones.
This is Mike Jones. Yeah, Jonestown.
Yeah.
But no, like, but how you said people just want something to believe in, not to. Who am I quoting on that one?
Bret Michaels.
Yes. But yeah, they just want something because they have nothing at this time in their lives. They're young, or they might like their spouse might have just left them. They don't have any money. They're down on their luck, and there's this guy's like, hey, everything's all right. Like, we got you. We have all these people we take care of each other, and they bring them into this, and people just get mushy in the head, man.
Yeah.
Shit gets real fucked up. Oh, fun fact. I don't know if we discussed this. I don't think we did. Danny Trejo, the
Yes.
famous actor, was in prison with Manson during Manson's second stint in prison in the early 60s.
Yeah, I don't know if it came up. I know there was one fun fact, and I think you thought I was going there with that, but it wasn't.
You mentioned the guitar teacher.
It was the guitar teacher,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I did read that too about Trejo. That's pretty wild.
Danny was later asked about Manson, what he thought of Manson, and he just basically said he was some guy who was into hypnosis. Because I think at the time, Trejo was taking hypnosis classes as well. Like they were both basically just in the same hypnosis class while in prison. He was like, yeah, this guy was a dumbass or some jerk off. Like he was into hypnosis and he was a terrible guitar player.
Well, Trejo was a murderer too, right? Wasn't he involved in, or did
I don't
they
know
never?
if he was into murder. I know he was into drugs for sure.
Okay.
Machete.
Machete.
Yeah,
he was a for real drug dealer.
All right.
We mentioned it earlier. Fun fact, or at least we mentioned it in a different episode.
Yeah.
Manson was featured on the cover of Rolling Stone in June 1970.
I'm going to get on that cover.
I wonder how many issues they sold. How many copies?
Probably a lot.
Yeah, it's Rolling Stone.
Yeah, people were probably intrigued by that, the story and everything. I would think.
Also intriguing, as time goes on and Manson's in prison, in 1975, two Manson family members, Sandra Good and Squeaky Fromm, had moved to Sacramento to be closer to Manson.
Sounds like another rap name.
Squeaky Fromm.
Well, do you know how she got that nickname, Squeaky?
Her
voice.
Is it a sex thing?
Well, the Spawn, George Spawn, that was like the one that he kind of liked.
Oh,
That's
the
right.
redhead.
He would pinch her and stuff, and she would make these squeaky
These little
noises.
giggles,
and
yeah.
he gave her that nickname, Squeaky.
Oh.
Yeah.
George
nice.
Spawn was a perv, dude.
He was grabbing ass.
A blind perv. So at Manson's direction, and again, now this is from prison, Fromm unsuccessfully attempted to assassinate President Gerald Ford. Now this chick was all of a yard away from him. She pulled a gun and fired it at him without a bullet in the chamber.
Damn.
She shot at the president with a gun not loaded. She was sentenced to life in prison for that. She ended up escaping from prison a little more than 10 years later in hopes of visiting Manson. Why? Because she'd heard he developed cancer.
Yeah, colon cancer.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was swiftly apprehended as a result. But good for Squeaky. She was released on parole in 2009. That is bananas.
That is crazy.
Bananas. This guy's in jail 4 years later. He somehow convinces these chicks, hey, man, you got to go assassinate the president. She goes to assassinate the president and doesn't have bullets in the gun. She's a yard away from him. Crazy.
Well, maybe that's why she got off or got released on parole, is because it didn't have any bullets in it. It's like something that...
It wasn't a deadly weapon.
Yeah, is it really anything if there's no bullets in a gun?
Let's not forget, this was 34 years later.
Yeah, true.
34 years after she was arrested. So, I don't know, man. Look,
But a gun with no bullets is like a rock. You throw it at somebody.
Mm.
Yeah, it was weird too. You talked about that whole thing with Manson being in prison, and we were talking about how he had control.
It's like, what's her name? Griselda.
Yeah. Well, there were still people living at that ranch while they were in prison, and people were coming to the ranch. They wanted to join the Manson cult,
Jesus
the Manson
Christ.
family, while this trial was going on.
You are so dumb.
It's amazing with these trials. With Bundy, we've seen it. With Manson, here we'll talk about it.
People are attracted to that
People are
shit.
attracted to that danger and that whatever. Even though the guy is up for murder charges, and people are attracted to it.
Messed up, man. I got one last fun fact. In 1984, Manson suffered second and third degree burns on much of his body after a fellow inmate poured paint thinner on him and lit him on fire.
Damn.
Lit him on fire.
Was he under protective, any kind of protection?
I gotta believe after this he was.
in prison.
Yeah, I would think so with his
Status.
notoriety, like going into prison. You know what I'm saying? But
In Moit.
it might.
It might. Just gotta get up.
Yeah.
In Moit.
Oi. Outbacks.
No, there's only 3, not 4. So yeah, that's all I got on Chuck Manson.
Yeah, Charles Manson. I mean, the guy's been in pop culture ever since then. I mean,
Our
he's
whole
in
lives.
everything. Yeah, you think about the
Our
band,
whole lives.
the band Marilyn Manson, and the guy's name Marilyn Manson. It's he took what somebody like a what was it model? Well, I guess Marilyn Manson. She was technically a model, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And he would mix that with like Manson, who's like notorious for being a murderer, and then Twiggy Ramirez. Twiggy was a model, and Richard Ramirez last name. So all the band members' names were to do with murderers and models, I guess.
Oh,
But,
Okay.
But yeah, so you think about Marilyn Manson, you think about all the things Manson's has been, the T-shirts we see, like Matt referenced about, what was it
Axl
Guns N'
Rose.
It was a Guns N' Roses, yeah. So, I mean, the guy's just everywhere. That's why I said growing up, I always attached that image to evil. I don't know what it was, but he just kind of knew, you know.
We can go online like now and get Manson stuff. I'm sure Helter Skelter sells well still. The book. Yeah.
It's a very intriguing story. I mean, it was.
I'm gonna get me a Manson T-shirt. Now I'm curious, where does the where does the royalties go? Like for his name, likeness, and image, all that stuff. Now that the college players are getting money,
right?
Where does Charles' name, image, and likeness go?
I don't think there is anything on it. I think it just goes to whatever T-shirt company.
Does it go to Valentine Michael?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if has anybody kept the name and the connection, you know, with family wise. I don't know. I do know, like I said, the guy, like, you know, it's just everywhere. Manson, still to this day, on T-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a crazy one. That was a lot to cover, much like
this was a lot to cover.
His other things, you know.
This was a thorough one. This guy's done a lot. I mean, a guy like this is, again, somebody we've known and at least known the name our entire lives. This guy certainly deserved, you know, at least 3 episodes worth.
Right. I wonder if any of the listeners out there are like interested in any of like the cult stuff or like these leaders, this cultist stuff, because there's a lot out there. There are, yeah. There's some interesting stories behind them. Like, who was the guy that had the people wear the Nikes? He said like the UFO was coming.
Yeah, the Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate. Yeah, that was another one. Like, made no sense.
I forgot about that.
Like, hey guys, we're going to take these pills tonight. Get your sneakers on.
Yeah, I'd also like some feedback on if you like the deep dives. Do you like 2-parters, 3-parters? Or do you like it when it's one episode and you're done with it? I don't know. I feel like with this, you couldn't do it in one episode to do it justice.
No.
It's just so much.
This had to be a big one.
Yeah.
I don't know. My man's got to put in overtime.
But that's interesting. Yeah. Do you guys like, you know, like a 1-parter? Is a 2-parter good? 3-parters?
Speaking of which, I put out a poll on our Facebook today. And just to see, yeah, right. Do you like the true crime better, or do you like the vintage cinema review?
Let us know.
Let us know. Like, definitely reach out.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I want to know.
Hey guys, can you wrap it up?
Oh, dang, we're working on it.
I know.
Okay.
Jeez.
All right. Well, Saved by the Bell on that one.
Yeah. Well,
I watched that the other day.
I love Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, it's great. Every time I can catch it.
Oh, yeah. I got to throw this out before we call it quits. I hope Mrs. Dave isn't too angry.
Nah, she'll be fine.
Okay. It is beyond coincidental that as I was doing this research and typing this up, just within the last week or two, I, for the first time, watched and has been playing with serious regularity on television, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never seen it before. What a great movie.
Oh, it's great.
Love it.
The only thing I didn't like, I shouldn't say I didn't like it. I guess because we were so deep into this when I watched it.
Yeah.
Is what's changed in it. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but.
With the whole, if this would have happened, and that did not.
Yeah. So they changed.
That's what I liked about it, actually.
I did, like, looking back, I like that, like Zap saying. It's a great movie.
It's neat. I appreciate the interesting take that Quentin Tarantino did with that, oh, hey, look, we understand that this is a serious, terrible thing that happened. We're going to throw a little twist into this that, this is what could have happened. It didn't, but what if?
Right. And I can see where, yeah.
But it was neat to watch because that's one of the things when I saw it, I wasn't thinking much into like and I was like, wait, is that what happened? Yeah, is that what? No, that's not what happened.
No. Yeah.
But it was cool. Tarantino's pretty good.
Genius.
I do wonder if he tied in, and speaking of that movie, so there were some stuntmen that lived at that Spawn Ranch. A couple guys that got tied up with Charlie, like in little disputes and whatnot. And I wonder if he based those characters, the DiCaprio and the Brad Pitt, on those actors and those stuntmen. There was one stuntman that actually, when Terry Melcher was there at the ranch to hear Charlie, this stuntman walked over and was drunk and stumbling, and Charlie beat the shit out of him. And that's what really turned Melcher off him, and he was kind of freaked out, like, what's fucking wrong with this guy?
Jesus.
So, yeah.
Was it the Fall Guy?
Yeah, what's his name? Lee Majors.
Yeah, Lee Majors.
It wasn't Lee Majors, but at any rate, I'm about to get knocked out here.
Yeah,
so
man, jeez.
We better wrap it up. Don't forget to leave that 5-star rating on Spotify. On Apple, you can leave a written review, like I say in the beginning. That really helps us out. And let a friend know if you enjoy it. And we'll be back next week with hopefully another vintage cinema review. I think we might do Rambo, so tune in for that. You guys got anything else?
No.
I got nothing.
I guess that's it for now. So we'll catch you where?
On the flip side.
If we don't see you sooner, we'll see you later.
Peace. Thanks for hanging out in the Old Dirty Basement. If you dig our theme music like we do, check out the Tsunami Experiment. Find them on Facebook. Their music is available streaming on Spotify and Apple, and where great music is available.
You can find us at Old Dirty Basement on Facebook and Instagram, and at Old Dirty Basement Podcast on TikTok.
Peace.
We outie 5000.